Hello, everyone. Welcome back to French Fries and Feelings. I am Justine,
And Natasha.
and today we have a very, very special guest. Give
Yay!
it up for Noha. Round of applause. Round of applause.
Hi everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me.
Um, as you guys should all know that Noha is probably my biggest fan and the biggest fan to this podcast, and she's listened to probably, if not every single episode, maybe multiple times.
I did.
She's amazing already.
So Noha, tell us a little bit about who you are.
So, first of all, yes, I'm a huge fan of Justine, and definitely I have listened to every single episode, and I definitely did listen to several of them multiple times. Um, and who am I? Okay, my name is Noah. I am Egyptian. I moved to the United States like 5 years ago, literally a month before the pandemic. So that's a story by itself. And yeah, that's who I am.
Moving here a month before the pandemic must have been quite the experience. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, it was quite the experience. Well, I came here like January, the end of January of 2020. I came like as an international student to do my master's degree in public health, and then literally a month later, um, everyone was like Corona, COVID, and everything just got shut down. I was supposed to do school in person. Because as an international student, by the way, you're not allowed, like the United States, like government does not allow you to have like online schooling to have like your visa. So you must do it in person. So I don't know if you guys like even remember, because Trump was the president at that point. He said like all international students must go back home and their visa should be revoked because they're just like, you're doing like online and that's not okay. And then big universities like Harvard and other like big schools like said, no, we're keeping our like international students here and we're gonna accommodate to have them doing online schooling. So yeah, it was chaotic. It was scary. It was crazy. Um, but yeah, I made it. I made it at 2025, huh?
You did. I'm so happy that you made it, and that sounds really, really, really stressful.
So I did my bachelor degree in like pharmacy, um, and it was like a 6 year program because that's how like medical schooling like back home works. So I did like a 6 year. I graduated. I did not really like pharmacy. So I was like, what can I do that is still kind of like related to medicine and health, but kind of a little bit like different that I can be exposed to something different. And then I like was thinking about going for like nutrition, and then I decided to go for like I believe like I didn't want to come to New York, so I don't remember how I came across doing public health, but my original plan was like I'm gonna go do public health because none of like the schools that were doing nutrition, like the deadline was already passed, so I was not accepted. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go temporarily do public health, and then after a semester I will change my degree to like something like nutrition because public health was the closest thing to nutrition.
That is a pretty wild jump from like uh pharmacy to public health to nutrition, or was it nutrition to public health?
No,
Um,
yeah. So I did like like I didn't even enroll in nutrition. I didn't even go to school. I just was like that, like the original plan. I would just go to public health for a little bit for a semester and then I will transfer. But then COVID happened, and I also like really once I like did and go study like public health, I was like, oh, I like it. So let me just keep doing it.
So what is your position now within that sector?
Well, honestly, so basically my master's degree is like public health, community health. And now I do like social services. Like I've been like in the nonprofit like for like 4 or 5 years
Ooh,
now.
welcome to the club.
Well, your whole schooling right now, especially during the pandemic and all of that, like props to those who finished school during the pandemic because you guys are champions. That's amazing. But how was it, going to school, dealing with everything that you dealt with there, to now transitioning to the field that you're in now? And then how was that compared to schooling and working in something similar to that in your home country?
Well, I would say it's completely like different. First of all, like back home, all I did was like pharmacy. So I would like go, like I would work in a hospital, like, or I would work in a like a community like pharmacy, something like CVS. So it was a completely like different like experience. And um honestly speaking, like social work, like when I started like trying to find jobs here, I didn't know that I will end up like doing what I'm doing right now. It just like it was the easiest way to like be exposed to public health and working with the population that I work with. So I wouldn't say I intentionally like wanted to work in the social service field or like the nonprofit. It just like all happened.
I love how almost everyone that I've encountered who was in this field, we all have like similar stories as far as I wasn't intending on doing this, but here I am.
And I don't think people intend always to end up in social services just because if you know someone who works in social services, you know how daunting it could be sometimes, but sometimes it's really a calling. And I'm wondering if maybe that was your experience, Noah, because you had a whole different path and you probably could have been prescribing me some Benadryl or some Zyrtec or something. And now you are a director for a social service, program in an organization and you have such extensive experience. So what was that transition like going from public health, community health and like pharmacy to, face-to-face client work, case management?
Okay. So I love the word calling, but I don't know if like I like it, but I don't know if that described my situation. Like okay, so basically, well, I need to discuss a little bit about like back home. So let me backtrack a little bit. So back home, in order to be successful, you need to go to either be a doctor, a pharmacist, something in the medical field, or be an engineer. Even a lawyer, even going to law school, you're like, you're not doing it. You're a failure. Okay, so this is like the way how I grew up in my household. In order to succeed, in order to be successful, in order to make it in life, you need to be either like a doctor, an engineer, something in the healthcare. So there was no any other options for me. Not to say my parents were controlling, but like, I grew up in a household where both my parents like cared so much, gave so much. So in my culture, you want to please them, right? So like, okay, I liked biology, I liked chemistry, I was a good student in like high school. So I decided, I was like, okay, I'm gonna meet them halfway and I'm gonna go like to pharmacy school. And then I moved from like I grew up, well, I'm Egyptian, but my middle school, like from I grew up, my middle school, my high school, my dad used to travel a lot, and we lived in the United Arab Emirates, or like Dubai. People know it as Dubai. And then in my last year of high school, my dad was like, he was like kind of reinforcing the idea that I need to like study abroad and not study home, because he wanted me to be like, my family wanted me to be exposed to different culture. So there was an option for me to come to the United States, because my dad's side of the family live here, or like, you know, Turkey, because we used to visit Turkey a lot because of my dad's job. So I decided to go and study in Turkey. Uh, University, or my bachelor degree, was very, very hard. First of all, if you've never been to Turkey, Turkish people don't speak any other language except Turkish. They're not very, I would say, and I love my Turkish friends, but even my Turkish friends can agree that Turkish people are not very welcoming or accepting. So it was very hard. It was very challenging. And also I was a very like top student in high school. But when I went to university, I guess just the transition from high school to university, by itself, it's hard. But also just being in a different country and different culture by itself, it was very, very challenging. So I was not in my first year, I was not a very good student. And I saw like my dad, once he would see like my grades and everything, that he will send me back home. When I say back home, Dubai was home at that point, but he didn't. And he was like, I believe in you. You will be better. And then my second year was easier for me. My grades start getting better, but I would never say that school or university or my bachelor degree was an easy thing. You know, it was not an easy experience. I was struggling a lot, and I would study like tremendously. I wouldn't even say like I had like party years of like my school, because like you either study to pass, or if you party and you don't care, you will definitely fail. And
That's not how it is in the States, because we party.
I mean, I know that because, like, you know, my partner, and now I know my American friends, their experience is completely like different. I hear it, I know it, but it was not my experience.
Well, I was gonna say, first off, I needed you as a friend in high school because bio was not it for me. Hated it,
Same.
hated it in
Same.
college.
I
Like,
hated
I wanted no
bio.
parts.
I hated chemistry. Chemistry was
Chemistry wasn't bad. Bio, I was like, kick rocks. I want no parts of this.
hated it.
But I do want to say that I love that your dad was super supportive, even though you knew that you were struggling. He was just like, "Nah, you got this." Like, I know the daughter that I raised. Like, I feel like he had that confidence in you. So I love that you had that kind of support.
And I would love for Noah to tell us about her parents.
I love my parents. I mean, I love my parents, but I mean, I just want to say something like mental health, and like, because I hear your episodes, right, guys? So like, you know, one of your episodes we're talking about like growing up in a Latino culture, and how they were like, where how the families perceiving to like mental health and all of these things, and a lot of things you guys were saying, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like the same exact culture I grew up in. I didn't know like what anxiety was until like I went to college, and even when I try like to tell my parents like I think I have anxiety, and they're like, you're just stressed.
Oh, I'm glad to know it's not just a Latino thing.
No,
This is universal.
trust me, it's not. I think, and you know what's just so funny? I think I have my anxiety because of like my mom does, but I don't know how she view it. She view it like, let me clean, let me, oh my God, you guys said that. And I was like, oh my God, this is like exactly my
There's
mom.
nothing that a broom cannot fix, okay? If you're feeling anxious or you want to bite your nails or you're mad at somebody, pick up a broom, turn on some music, and your anxiety and depression will disappear.
That's exactly my mom. But anyway, the reason why I was just saying all of this, like, I love my parents. I think they supported me, like me and my siblings, a lot. I would never be where I am today if I did not have their support and their love. But the reason why I was saying all of this is because I wanted to say that like I finished school because my dad really wanted me to be a pharmacist. And even when I decided to come and do my master's degree in public health, he was not really happy about it. His end goal was for me to eventually like kind of like transfer my degree from from Turkey to the United States, like do all these exams and whatsoever. But then I lost my dad in 2020 during COVID. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah. So thank you. COVID, like 2020 was a very hard year because I came here, the world shut down, and then airports, airplanes, everything was shut down, and my dad was sick, but I could not travel. So I could not travel back home, and my dad passed away, and I was not there. So it was a very like hard time, personally for me. But it's also after my dad passed away, I kind of like was like, okay, I can like not like opportunities, but like my idea of being a pharmacist was not it. So I was like, let me be exposed to different things. And that's how I came about, working in the social field. I started working with children who have autism. And then after that, I moved to working as a care coordinator, for Bronx Works, a nonprofit organization. And then, I moved up to a case management supervisor, an assistant program director, and now a director for supportive housing. So I think if my father was still here, I maybe social services would not be an option, because back home we don't think that these careers are successful per se, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. So, considering that you have like this international background, personally and professionally, how is social services perceived, or how is it similar or dissimilar to here?
um I would say, okay, so I want to compare like Dubai first, right? So the government, for example, support its local like a lot. Like they give them lands, they give them housing, they give them everything you could imagine and more, to make sure that the local, or the citizen, that's what I mean, the local, the citizen, um, are supported. But it's not the same for other people who live there who are not a citizen. And even if you live there for like 30 years, 40 years, let's say even if you were born there, you would never become a citizen. So you will not get the same support if you were not a citizen. So I would say definitely the United Arab Emirates, or Dubai, is a very rich country. So they support their citizen beyond your imagination. Like think of anything. You want to go travel abroad to get education, the government will support you. So that's something that like I grew up knowing, that like being a non-citizen, even though I lived there for like over 15 years, that I would not get the same benefit as someone who's a citizen, if that makes sense.
But the citizenship is based off of you being like a descendant of someone who's from the UAE, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So basically what you just said. And let's say, for example, let's say I'm Egyptian. I married a Dubaian, or a United Arab Emirates uh, guy, and then we got divorced. So automatically my citizenships get removed.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so it's not an easy, because I think the reason why I think about it, I think, is the government like support the people a lot, the citizen a lot beyond your imagination. And I think there's a lot of non-citizen people who come to work a lot. Like the country is really like opens its door for a lot of people to come all around the world to come and work in the country, right? So I think about it, if they provide citizenship to everyone they come, they would not be able to provide the level of support they provide to their citizen at that level. Does this make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So now let's go back to like that analogy that you said. So you marry someone who is a citizen of that country and you have children. Are the children now considered citizens even though you technically are not? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. You become a citizen as long as your parent, one of your parents is a citizen, and now you get this like, land or interest-free loans or houses or free public education throughout university. All these like supports that you will get from the government as long as you're a citizen. I would say definitely in school it's a little bit like in school, let's say for example, my dad and my mom were both like Emirati, or like they are both local citizen, right? And in like, let's say Justine is like, her dad is Emirati but her mom is Egyptian, right? In school, that they kind of would say that like the kids are so mean, but they kind of like will try like to be mean to Justine, call her kind of names, call her that she's not true Emirati or she's not true like local, because not both of her parents are like blooded. Does this make sense?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that I need to marry a man from Dubai. That's what you're
I
telling
was
me.
literally thinking the same thing.
I would say though, like people there are very nice, very. I don't know if any of you have ever been to Dubai.
I have not, but it's on my list of places to go.
Yep, it's on the bucket list.
Like I'm gonna be honest, like it's the safest like country in the world. Like I'm serious. You walk there at 3 a.m., 2 a.m., it's the same exactly as 12 p.m. The peace. You leave your purse in a public space in a bench, okay, for 5 hours, for 10 hours. You leave it for a day, you're gonna come and find it where it is. People are so respectful, it's very safe, it's just an amazing place. Seriously.
Well, you know what? I'm lying because let me tell you a story. I may or may not be engaged to somebody in Abu Dhabi, okay? Because I know it's part of the UAE. So here's what happened. A few years ago, me and my best friends went to Thailand and we had a layover in Abu Dhabi. And if you've ever been to Abu Dhabi for a connecting flight, you basically have to go through security twice. And once you are flying into the US, there's a separate area in the airport for US bound flights because Homeland Security for the US is actually inside the Abu Dhabi airport. Whatever. So here I am going through security again, and this, like, I don't know, an angel, okay? He was an employee. I think we're in love, okay? He was like super nice and was like really helpful and just smiling at me the whole time, and so now we're in love, and my husband lives in Abu Dhabi, so you're invited to my wedding. Thank you.
Too freaking funny. I cannot.
I
I
know.
think I know that this is based on a true story. I
Oh
have
no,
been
this
there
is
before.
the truth, honey. I will literally get my friends on the phone one of these days to tell you the story about my Abu Dhabi husband. We're in love. I wish I should have asked him for his name, but I didn't. So I guess I have to go back to Thailand and fly through Abu Dhabi again.
So this sounds like a reality show, and we're gonna title it I Need to Find My Husband at the Airport.
Correct. It's like 90 Day Fiance, but
Please, Abu Dhabi airport. Let's be specific.
yes. So 90 Day Fiance Abu Dhabi edition, specifically the airport.
Hilarious. It sounds like quote unquote social services in Dubai is amazing because they are genuinely trying to better their community by providing all the things for them to succeed, unlike other places. Um, yeah, that's all I
Yeah,
got.
I would
That's
say,
what I took up from that story.
yeah, I would say another thing though, like let's talk about like 25 years ago. A lot of, it's an oil rich economy, right? So but prior to that, it was not like that before, prior to discovering the oil and becoming an oil rich economy or country, right? It was not that case, right? So a lot of generation, like I will talk about my dad's and my mom's generation, right? Like my dad would be like now what, 65 years old or something, right? So I'm talking about this generation. A lot of like people from Dubai were not educated, right? The same generation like of my dad and my mom. So they needed people from outside to come and build the country. So I would say my generation is the generation now that is like educated, and the government really push for this generation and younger to go get education, because they want to have their own doctors, they want to have their own like engineers. This was not the case 30 years ago, if that all makes sense. So that's why a lot of the government like would really fund people to go abroad and even get education. So to speak, this is also, I want to be very clear, this is my experience, my knowledge. Maybe someone would feel like differently about what I'm saying, but this is like what I have observed. A lot of my friends back from high school, the government funded them to like come to the US and get education from here, all for free. Like they would not pay anything, even though they come from a wealthy family as well.
So if the government pays for them to get educated anywhere in the world, is there like a stipulation or a requirement that they have to go back in order to, I guess, like reap the benefits of what they invested in?
I wouldn't say they would must come back, but I think a lot of people would want to come back. They would definitely get like better job opportunities, you know, with good salaries. So I think a lot of Emiratis would just like come with the idea or the goal of like getting a degree and coming back and just working, back home, because they know that they will, be in the comfort of their own country, and also they will make good money because the government will hold them to like a higher standard of like they were able to achieve and get the degree. So they come back, so now we need to reward them, if that makes sense.
Again, what I'm hearing is that I need to marry someone from Dubai.
Girl, you said it. Cause I'm on that flight. I'm looking at flights right now. I'm gonna marry me. Someone actually, no, I can't cheat on my husband. I can't cheat on him. I gotta go back. Oh my god. Wait, so if I marry my husband from Abu Dhabi airport, does that mean that like I too reap all these benefits? Cause,
Yeah, because that means that you would be considered a citizen through marriage, correct?
I no, let me rephrase that. If you get it once you have children, and I think, Justine, you said you're not ready to get
Oh,
married.
oh
see?
hell no. No, 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 no. No, no, no. No, no. See, children are cute to look at, right? And then they cry and they throw up on you and they poop up their back right to their neck. No,
Do
no.
do dogs count? Because dogs are my babies.
Yes, I do have
Yeah,
dogs.
my babies too.
Oh
Yeah, I mean,
no.
I love my dog. He's my baby, but he's definitely a grandpa baby.
Yep, same. All right, so I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on this citizenship, not citizenship thing.
It sounds,
Um,
so to me, it's like people who are Emirati really are trying to like purify the bloodline. So it's like anyone who,
yeah.
yes, because it's like anyone who has Emirati parents who were born in the Emirate, countries or areas, they are entitled to, everything that the UAE has built, right? Because UAE was just really desolate and nothing up until like 30, 40 years ago when they found all this oil, and it's become such a huge cornerstone of like business and education and commerce and shopping and tourism, right? So of course, if I am a country that's literally made it out of the gutter, I would want my citizens who have been here from the beginning to reap the benefits of the hard work that we've done. However, most of the people who live in the UAE are from Indonesia or the Philippines or like other countries where they come into the UAE to have jobs so that they can send it back. So it's like, it's a big imbalance, I would say. And I'm trying to think of if something like that exists here. And I would say to compare that to what we have in the States, it would kind of be like the lack of social services, or well, the future lack of social services available for people who are not citizens of the US, right? We are a country where we're supposed to welcome people despite where they come from, and they're going to have freedom and all these opportunities. But we are currently living through an administration where if you don't look like someone who's supposed to be quote unquote American, you're going to get abducted and sent to a prison in El Salvador, even though when you look at your passport, it says you were born in the United States of America. So that is really interesting. What I'm hearing is that I'm going to marry my husband in Abu Dhabi and live my best life.
I also want to add something to make it a little bit clear, because my dad was a resident permit, right? Or quote unquote, not a citizen in Dubai, and he was an employee. And my mom too, both of them, I keep saying my dad, but both my parents worked, right? And they were living there and they were not a citizen. But I compare myself because I'm not an American citizen and I'm living here in the United States. And I would say definitely, the government like really respect like that sorry the Emirati government really respect people who come and work. They don't give the like it's way easier to get a work visa in Dubai, right? And comparing to the United States, they don't give you like you literally, if you're able to work, they will give you a working visa. That's not the same situation in the US, right? You need to prove that to get a working visa, you need to prove that an American citizen cannot do the same job. I mean, I know that. I don't know if you guys know that, but I know that because I'm not an American citizen and I know what is the deal to get these papers done, right? I also want to say that definitely, even though like in Dubai, my parents were not citizen, I think, they were more respected, more accepted, by the culture. I would say it's just like a different experience. I just want to make it clear that in Dubai or Emirat, they do not make you not feel welcome just because you're not a citizen. I think the reason why they're trying not to give citizenship is because they're trying to like support their people as much as possible. It's a completely different case scenario in the United States, just geographically and whatsoever. And just like even just like the US is a way, way bigger country.
I have two questions that you or Justine may or may not have the answers to. The first is, I know we kind of mentioned like if the marrying into an Emirati citizen, and having children and your child becomes a citizen. However, my question is, do the same rules or conditions or whatever apply if it was in reverse? Like if I were, an Emirati citizen and I married someone who is not, would they then become a citizen via marriage and our children then be citizens because of that? That's my first
Are
question.
you preparing for your move to the UAE?
No. Like it's a genuine question because I know like culturally in other places like women don't tend to have the same rights or freedoms as men do. So I'm curious as that aspect of it. And then the second is, and this is just full transparency thing, like I don't know much of anything about Dubai, just things that I see on the interwebs. Um, I've seen or heard like working conditions for those who come from the outside in, like supposedly aren't that great. So I would like to know from someone who actually has lived there and has like their own experiences if you've seen or heard or witnessed any of those theories.
I would say, to answer your first question, I'm pretty sure, again, and I hope I'm not wrong. I know this because I just like from school and everything, you must be your one of your parents must be Emirati citizen in order for you to become a citizen. You cannot be like, you not because you have a stepfather, right, and you have children from a previous marriage from like a different country, right, that you bring them to and you get married to that Emirati guy, and you suddenly your kids can automatically have the citizenship. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, yeah.
And the second thing is like I would say definitely I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone's story, but both my parents really held a very high education degrees, and that's mean their jobs were very. My dad was a CEO for an international like company, uh so uh, and he was the CEO, so and he was like a very successful engineer. My mom was a PhD holder, and she wrote books, and she was on TV. So again, like their job of demand in Dubai was different than a taxi driver, or like not to say that like a taxi driver is less than or anything, but just like the demand, the job demand and everything. So I don't want to speak on these kind of people's experience and what they were exposed to, but I would say from my parents' experience, they definitely were like they were very well respected in the community, but again, their experience is different because of like what job they had.
No, totally understand that. And shout out to your parents for being boss people in their fields. Like that's
Absolutely.
amazing.
Her mom has 2 PhDs. I don't even have
I can't even
one.
fathom.
I hate PhD. I would never, I think I might have like 10 masters, but I would never be able to do a PhD. I think Justine.
Hilarious.
No, I hate research. Even though sometimes I sit here and think about getting my PhD, and I might do it just for funsies. 'Cause why not? But to transition a little bit, because I do want to talk about mental health, because it is important to talk about that piece, and what it looks like in other parts of the world. So you've grown up in Egypt, you've grown up in Dubai, had spent some time in Turkey, and so now that you're here and you're working in social services and you're working with people who have severe mental health disorders, and you compare that to what you might have witnessed or experienced, outside of this country, what does that look like?
Well, to answer your question, I just want to say one thing because I feel like I talked about a lot about Dubai, right? But I am Egyptian. So like even though I lived in Dubai, right? I went to school there and whatsoever, during summer I would go back to Egypt. And this is the social service field there is completely different than Dubai. Egypt is not a rich country. Uh, you know, um, so the economy is not well, so definitely like the people in need is much more, which means like this the demand for social services, and so is way higher comparing um to a country like Dubai, right? So one of the biggest thing is like I would want to mention is that like in Egypt education is for free. And I think when I came to the United States, or not even when I came to the United States, when I was in college and I started like thinking about the US and moving to the US, I was like I started like like this was the first time I realized education, like in order for you to go to college, you need to pay, you know? This is something I was like, that's a little bit crazy for me. So like if you want to go to college, you need to have student loans. The government does not pay for your school. So this is definitely was like a culture shock. And I still like kind of like try to process it because I hear all about like these student loans, and I'm like, why? Like, why can't just the country have education or college education for free? Like, this is beyond me.
I think that's the $1 million question for all of us here.
So that was crazy. Another thing is like healthcare, right? Is a part that is also was a culture shock for me. It's still a culture shock for me. I still struggle with it. Healthcare in Egypt is for free. I'm not saying so the way how Egypt it is, like there is free healthcare. You can go to any hospital, you can go to any government hospital, clinic, and you will get free services, right? There's also private ones. The reason why some middle high class, individual will go to that private one is because I would say the quality of service or the quality of care is better. It does not mean that like the quality of care of the government is really bad, but because they see because it's for free, so they see a tremendous number of people. So sometimes you would not be able to get like you would not be seen immediately, right? You might need to have like a long wait list or something like that. So that's another thing that was like a culture shock for me. And I knew about that even before I moved in 2020. I remember when I went to visit my uncle in Michigan, and I was like maybe like 14, 15 years old. I remember I was gonna stay in the US in Michigan for a month, and my uncles kept telling me like to try to be careful, not to injure myself, not to fall, not because if I get like if something happened and they need to take me to the emergency room or to the clinic, they will pay like a lot of money. So like the entire vacation they kept reminding me not to get sick, not like just to like arm myself to the best of my ability. Not only me, like my sister too, and my family when we were visiting. So this was also like a very much like a culture shock to know that like there's just no free healthcare.
See, but that's gotta like put some fear not only on you but on your family that's here as well, because they're like now stressed that if you get hurt, like that's an added expense on them that they may not have on top of the culture shock that you guys are experiencing. So that's pretty crazy that like that could also be like an anxiety inducing effect for everyone involved.
Agreed, 100%. Another like big thing that I would say is like um, I think like even though I always say the Egypt is not a rich country, but one thing that will really surprise you is when you go there, you will not see as much as like homeless or unhoused people. So even though it's not a rich country, and you would expect that like if like you know a country that is not as rich that you will see more like unhoused people or like homeless, but like that the family structure or like even like the community structure is way like stronger in that sense, that like you will see like let's say if you lost your apartment, right, for some sort of like reason you were not able to pay the rent, you will see like you will have an uncle, you will have a cousin, you will have a family friend that is willing to keep you there, and you will never feel like pushed or pressure to leave. So I think that also another part that I don't like see so much in the US.
So I think this is just my perception of first off, I think it's great that in Egypt like family is quick to take you in, so that you're not suffering in the way that you think you might be suffering. But I think it doesn't happen often here in the States because one, possibly egos, uh, two, we can barely survive in our household alone. So then it's possibly that mentality of, well, if I bring someone else or someone else's family into my home, then that's more mouths to feed, that's more food coming out of my fridge, that's more money coming out of my bank account to pay for the food, and then all the things that go within that, because there's a possibility that even if I bring them in, we're not going to get the assistance needed to house these people, such as uh, food stamps or Medicaid or WIC or whatever government assistance that exists may not apply to these people for X amount of reasons.
But I would also say that the US has a very individualistic culture. And I think that because we have this notion about us that we come here and you make all your dreams come true and you make money, and it, to us, people who live here, it's very much you have to work hard and you have to get an education and you have to do whatever it takes to be educated. And even if you are educated, you might not have the same opportunities. And it's like, if you fall on hard times, like there are some programs that can help, but it's very rare, I would say, to have a lot of collectivism in a United States culture compared to, being Hispanic or being from the UAE or being Egyptian or like, having a different mindset or different view of life and family and what it means to help other people. So when I think of the US, and I think maybe sometimes other people who weren't born here think of the US, I think of a one-track mind. It's me, me, me. I need to do this. I need to get the best education. I need to do this, 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 and this so I can have all the things that the American dream tells me that I need to have, right? But you can only do that on your own. And it sounds like outside of this country, it's like, well, actually, I can help you. Or if you fall in hard times, like, I'm your family. This is what we're here for. And now I feel like I need to move to Egypt. So now I have a husband in Abu Dhabi, and now I'm going to find me a husband in Egypt, which, by the way, I'm going to Egypt next month. I'm going to Alexandria, and I'm really excited. So I might actually find my husband in Egypt.
Well, Justine, I would love that. Seriously, I mean it truly, for you to find an Egyptian husband, because that will be like my dream come true.
And it might actually be my dream come true, girl. So I'll keep you posted on that. Maybe he'll be your cousin or something. And then, like, we'll have a big wedding and you'll be there and it'll be fun.
If I know anyone who's single, trust me, I would connect you because I want you in my life forever.
I think you're stuck with me, so we're good. I think we're good on that front. Now, speaking of
I
stuff.
want to say something before you go to the next point, because you
Go
were
ahead.
saying something. Oh, everything you said I agree with, but I want to connect to everything that you were saying to your question regarding mental health. So you know how like we were talking about mental health and like trauma, all of these things and the family support, right? I also notice here that, for example, children get like very traumatized by their parents' action, right? So was this like especially our generation, I would say like the millennials, right? Like they're all, and Gen Z and whatsoever, like they're all about like mental health and prioritizing that, right? So, let's say I'm like 29 years old. My mom like traumatized me really a lot, and now I'm like an adult. So I'm going to take my space, right? I'm going to take my space because I don't want to be surrounded by this trauma, what I've experienced in my childhood. So whatever my mom is going to go through right now as a 60 years old woman, maybe she end up being unhoused, maybe she end up being homeless, maybe her mental health is really, really bad. I don't want to do anything to do with her woman. I want this woman out of my life because I feel like in Egypt, okay, and this is again based on me, like my culture, my experience. I don't want to talk on behalf of every Egyptian because that can be completely different to someone else. I think in Egypt, because in my culture, mental health is not very like spoken about. I think maybe in the last like 5 years, I would say we're now like discussing it, we're really, really talking about it. I feel we don't have that perception. Even if our parents, let's say, traumatize us, we don't have that idea that we will kick them out of our life. Even our parents or a family or anyone, right? That dynamic, we will still stick by them. And that's why I think maybe that family community structure to everything you were saying is correct, but also maybe that we're willing to sacrifice our mental health and keep toxic people in our life, even if it hurts us, because in our culture, we grow up with that idea that we need to stick with our people no matter what. Does this make sense, guys?
Totally. It makes so much sense. I think I would say there's a lot of elements of that in Hispanic culture too, where we kind of have to just be there for people even when we don't want to. Natasha, do you agree?
I agree 100%. I remember hearing a saying when I was younger that was pretty much like, um, I I love you because you're insert family member here, but I don't like you. So pretty much like I'm gonna stick by you because you're my family, and I'm gonna do all the things because you're my family, but I don't necessarily like what you're doing, like that you're in the situation, and now I have to deal with the situation in my life. But because we're related and we're gonna do all the things, I'm gonna do it anyway.
And that kind of brings me to the line of work that me and Noah do, right? So a little background information. Um, Noah works for the same agency that I work for. And I basically trained her in the current role that she's in because it was my previous role. So we worked very closely together. And where we work, we basically provide, extensive supportive services to formerly unhoused people. And so all of the clients who live in this building have extensive trauma. They have, previous drug addictions. They all were homeless, living in a homeless shelter. Some are dependent on disability. Some are not able to work. Some have mobility issues. It's a myriad of things. But the host, or not the host, but like the main issue, right, is mental health. And yes, these people do have families. They have children. They have parents that, some of them are still alive, aunts, uncles, etc. But when we work in our field, we see so many clients who are riddled with psychosis and bipolar, depression, anxiety, and they don't have family that actually cares. They don't have family that says, you know what, come into my house. I will help you. I will get you the support that you need. We have clients who have children that are banned from the building because they have come into the building and taken money from their parents or have taken advantage of them. And so when I hear about what life is like and support is like in Egypt, I kind of wish that that's what we had here, because some of our clients really need that support and that unconditional support. Yes, there is the element of, I love you, but I don't like you. And yes, there are certain aspects of relationships and situations that might be very troubling. But I think the core of it all is I have a family member who needs help. A lot of the issues that they have, if not all of the issues that they have, are not their fault. And so how do I help them with that?
I feel like the same could be said for the population that I work with. I work in geriatrics, and I want to say maybe like 80 to 90% of my clients who do have family members, it is very rare that these family members are actually actively involved in their care, whether there is a mental diagnosis or not. Um, so yesterday I actually had a visit with a new client, not even the client himself that I visited with. I visited with his friends because he has no family. So he has two very close friends, and the way that they were so supportive and actively involved in his care genuinely made me smile, because it is so rare to find that. And not only were they involved and wanted to know more about what it is that I do and how I was going to help their friend, they were willing to let me take lead. So it's also that other hand of it, that when families are involved, they want you to help, but they want to be in charge. And it's just like, nope, can't have it both ways.
Noah, you are in this field. You work with severely mentally ill, formerly unhoused people. You've done it for quite some time, a few years now. You are also trying to go back to school and get a third master's degree because you are the world's biggest overachiever.
That's you.
We're working towards getting a master's in social work, which I'm so excited for you to go on this journey. And you work harder than probably anyone that I know. So how do you take care of yourself?
My dog does. No, that's a big lie, because I take care of Oscar because he's a grandpa who needs a lot of help and attention. Um, I honestly think, okay, the reason I want to say that the reason why I work so hard is because, again, I think the culture I grew up with, and it's not necessarily a good thing, right? Like, I think I would really love to go even deeper and deeper about the culture that I grew up in, the mental health and everything. I think I grew up with my parents seeing them always and always working, and they never addressed their mental health. I try to remind myself that I love my parents. I think they're really, both of them are the greatest like human being ever, but I want to be better even. And I think sometimes I need to remind myself that maybe they were not exposed to the same knowledge that I am right now exposed to, that I'm grateful to be exposed to. Now I know how important is mental health and whatsoever, right? And I need to take care of myself. So I need to remind myself to pause every once in a while and say, like, you should not repeat history and what you grew up with, and just even take what was good and what was amazing that was provided to you and just like improve from there. So yeah, I try to remind myself of that.
I love that. I appreciate that you acknowledged um, the difference from your parents' possible mishaps when it comes to not taking themselves into consideration, and realizing, like, in order to be more successful, not only for them but for myself, I need to put myself first in some aspects.
So, if you could go back to the UAE or Egypt and take some, if not all, of the things that you've learned in this field and kind of implement it over there, what would you take from here and bring over there? Because I've heard a lot about what we could bring from over there, but are there certain things that you wish that they had over there?
I would say like for example, in Egypt, again, like we're like there is a lot of poor people, right? It surprised me that there is not a lot of like the poverty rate in the in Egypt based on 2022 comparing to like the US is like 28%, and the US poverty rate was 11%. So you gotta understand like that the numbers are different. So it's not a rich country, right? And there are poor people, but what amazed me is like there's not as many unhoused or homeless people in the street, not because they have their own homes or apartment, it's because that family culture support, right? There is housing subsidies in the US that is provided, and I wish there was more like something like that there. I know the current administration is not happy about all these and they're trying to pose a lot of them, but I wish that there was something like that implemented in Egypt.
I think that's a valid point, and I agree. I think that there are some flaws in our system in this country, but there are a lot of unique opportunities to make it out of a really rough situation. And in some ways we do have that privilege, and I wish that we could transfer that elsewhere. So that's a really good idea. And now, final question for you, my dear. You are a social service superstar. You are saving lives and doing the social work, and you also could open up your own pharmacy if you really wanted to. You just have all your hands in all these pots. You're a great partner. You're a great dog mom. We love Oscar. He's so cute, by the way. I wish I could post a picture of him somehow, but we'll talk about that another time. So, in the next 5 years, where do you see yourself?
What a loaded question. Wow. Well, I really, really want to get like my master's degree. I really want to get my license and eventually get my LC. And opening my private practice. I know, I think I don't want to leave the nonprofit world, but I want to have something in addition that maybe that I can rely on, right? That because the nonprofit sector is a lot, right? We all, I guess all of us work in a nonprofit organization. So I would, and it takes a lot on your mental health and everything. And I feel like having something that you can rely on, that you can feel like you can do on your own without feeling that stress, that level of stress is something that I'm working toward. So this is where I see myself. And also, I don't think I want to be in New York forever. I have a hate-love relationship with New York.
We all do. We all do.
Girl, you heard the last podcast. Not the last. Was it the last? No. It must have been 2 podcasts ago, where I was going off about the price of
About
eggs.
the eggs.
Like the eggs and the apartments. Oh, please. I also need to get out of here. So I don't blame you.
I think everyone says that, but we're staying. No one is leaving. So what's going on?
No.
Because we can't afford to go anywhere else.
We can't afford to even blink, Noah. Eggs are $20. I hate to bring this back, but eggs are $20. So what am I supposed to do? I can't go anywhere where eggs are $20.
We should have bought chickens instead of dogs.
I know. And I didn't think that, eggs were going to be $20 when I adopted my precious angel. However, I do call her Chicken. That's one of her new nicknames. Only because she had, her hair on top of her head kind of sticks up like a chicken. So, I wish she laid eggs so that I wouldn't have to buy $20 eggs. But here we are. She's cute, and I still pay $20 for eggs. I don't know what to do anymore.
Don't let me get started on why the animal, to get a puppy, to get a pet here is extremely expensive. This was another culture shock, guys. Seriously.
My mom says that all the time. She's like, back home, my mom is Cuban, back home, dogs, you just find a dog and then you feed them whatever you're eating and that's it.
I agree with your mom.
Noah, how did you get Oscar? Because you didn't get him here, right?
No, I did not. And you know what? He since I got him, he always got sick. And I used to take him to the vet in Turkey, and I swear I'm not lying. I would not pay anything. Some days she just look at me, she's like, oh, I saw you so many times, it's fine, don't pay. And pay me next time. And I would not see her maybe for 3 months. And when I come back, she never bring up that my last non-payment. I promise you. True story. I'm saying true story.
This is ridiculous. Even vets are free out of the country. I quit. I'm done.
I'm telling you, we have to go. Okay? I'm gonna find me an Egyptian boo, or I'm gonna go back to my boo in Abu Dhabi. Natasha, you grab your dogs, you grab your batas, and you go to Egypt. Maybe we'll meet
Not
each
the
other there.
batas.
And we gonna go, cause I can't do this anymore. What do you mean? I had to pay $180 for my chicken, not my actual chicken, my dog chicken. to get the rabies vaccine. Why?
I have a credit card debt right now because of
Me
Oscar.
too.
I'm scared.
No, and Noah's is like severe because poor Oscar, he was in the doggy hospital for like a week or so. How is he doing?
He's awesome. He's eating. He's like, he acts as if like I don't owe that much amount of money in the bank than the credit card. He's living his life. I wish I was him in another universe. I really pray that I am, but for now I am the one who pays every month this credit card debt that I'm having. He's like, seriously, this is crazy. This was no, guys, I seriously, this was really a serious culture shock for me. I'm like, why do I need to pay that much money for my beautiful baby to stay alive? Someone that like give me my mental support. He makes me happy. Why? It makes people like not motivated to get pets too. Don't you guys agree?
I agree. I agree 100%. And Natasha
Yeah.
has 2 dogs, so
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Like I've heard so many people say getting a dog is worse than having kids because the dogs can't tell you what hurts or what they're feeling or anything of that nature. So every limp, every sneeze, every blink, you're running to the vet and spending God knows how much money for them just to say, "Oh, your dog is happy. That's why his tail hurts."
Do you know that the emergency one night in an emergency room costs $560? No, seriously. So my
Yeah,
dad
I
was there
I
for
just
like,
took my dog to the cardiologist and that was $1,300 just for them to tell me that his heart is fine.
I'm sorry. What? $1,300? Girl, I'm gonna get you a stethoscope. Just put the stethoscope to his chest. You listen. It's $0. Cause what do you mean? $1,300 for a cardiologist?
Dude, it was the fanciest doctor's office I've ever been to. I remember taking a picture and sending it to my dad, and he was like, "What the hell is this crap?" It was so fancy. Like, there was a concierge service. They come out and greet you, and they take you to this back room, and there's this whole, like, ordeal going on. It was crazy. It was insane.
Yeah, no. No. I'm buying you a stethoscope.
it's so funny.
No, I'm buying you a stethoscope because what do you mean? Listen, I'm gonna find you like a sonogram machine, okay, somewhere on Shein. There has to be like a Shein type website.
Not on
No,
Sheen.
no,
Oh
no,
my
because
God.
I'm not $1,300. No, 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 no. And this is why I always say, I don't know if I've said this on the podcast, but I've definitely told people in real life that when I die, I want to come back as the chihuahua of a rich gay couple.
You have said that.
No, because nobody is getting treated better than the Chihuahua or like a Yorkie, a small fluffy dog that weighs 10 pounds or less. You know, that kind of dog of a gay rich couple. Okay. Not only am I 1, rich, 2, I don't have to work. 3, I'm eating like fresh salmon straight from the lake. And 4, I'm skinny. I fit anywhere. Me on the private jet, me on someone's lap. Oh, I'm living my life. Yes, that's exactly how I want to live.
I hear you, Justine. I hear you 100%.
As per the usual, this conversation went every single freaking direction, and I love it.
No, because like we discussed my next life, we discussed my husband's, multiple, plural. You know, we have plans, okay? And I'm so glad that we have them. But this has been quite the experience. Noah, thank you so much for giving us your time and enriching us with a lot of knowledge about what goes on out of this country. Um, I think that it's important for other people to hear about mental health and social services and education experiences outside of what we have here. And maybe encourage people to want to go to Egypt and want to go to the UAE, which you know I'm going because I'm going to find me my man. But I'm really excited to go to Egypt and to experience it all and think about you while I'm there because I'm going to be in Alexandria, which is where you were born. And I will find you those chips. I forgot what they're called already, but I will look back in our text messages and find you those chips and bring a piece of home to you. But thank you so much for your time and your expertise and everything that you do. And you are the world's biggest overachiever. You say that it's me, but it's actually you.
Yeah, thank you so much for spending some time with us and listening to the pod and being a fan and being an all-around boss because you're freaking amazing. So thank you.
Thank you both for having me, and please, please bring me back. I will do better. I promise.
Girl, you did fantastic.
Yeah, literally, you were amazing.
Thank you both. I really love listening to you guys. I'm sharing this with like all my friends at like school, like Hunter, college. I'm like sending it to all like my group class. Please listen, please. This is amazing. If you're in the social field or you're trying to be, you need to listen to them. They're funny, they're hilarious, and they share the most realistic stories.
And I think we gotta start giving you 5%. You might.
5% of our French fries. That's what we got
No,
right now.
this is like the 8th time that we've done a podcast with no French fries. So I owe you French fries, Noah. When I see you next, I will bring you some fries. Or we can share some fries at the Mets game next week. Your choice.
Yeah, let's do that.
Fantastic. But thank you so much. You are the best in the West and in the East, right? In the Middle East and in the West. There you go. I did it.
Oh
It's
God.
9 p.m. What do you expect from me? Not much. But this has been another episode of French Fries and Feelings. Thank you so much for listening, for being present. Thank you for having feelings, and hopefully you get some fries.